In this video, let me show you how to toggle password visibility. That is, hide the password if the person clicks on the hide button or show the password if the person clicks on the show button. We have seen these kind of toggle password visibility option while logging into Facebook or email accounts. While entering the password, if we want to make sure that we are entering the correct password or entered the correct password, we can click the show button or the eye icon so that we will be able to see the password we have entered. So we are going to implement a similar functionality using jQuery. So to illustrate this, I have already saved a web page and added reference to the latest jQuery file. You can implement this using plain JavaScript also. Here I am using jQuery. Now let us add some elements, that is to enter some username and password. We only need the password text box. Still, to make it look like a normal login form, I am adding some elements. So let me have a div element first, within which we are going to add the elements. Okay, so div id container, and here let me add an h2 element, just specifying login, and then I need to have username and password labels and text boxes. Then buttons also, that is show button, and we will just add a login button as well. So first let me add the label. Let the text be username. Then let me enter the text box, that is input type equal to text, id equal to username, and let me also specify a placeholder as username. Okay, so this is the first element, and let me add 2 line breaks to have line separation, that is to display the next elements in the next line. So let me add 2. Then let me again add a label with text as password. Okay, and let me again add an input element with type equal to password, because in this text box the user will be entering the password. Okay, so for this let me specify the id to be password and placeholder to be again password itself. Now I have added the input element. Next let me have an input element of type button. We can also add a button element. Here I am using input element type button with id equal to show password and value, that is the text to be displayed as show. Next let me just add a login button. We are not going to implement anything. Still, to make this look like a login form, I am adding input type button with value equal to login. So we have added the required elements. Now let me save this and show you the page. We haven't styled these elements. We will do it later. But let me refresh. See, login, username, password, show, and login. This button should be displayed in the new line, right? So we can add a BR element, 1 or 2 BR elements to display it in the next line. Let me save this. Let me refresh. Okay. Now I think we can move the whole div element, that is the div element with id container, towards the right hand side a bit. So what I'm going to do is that inside the head, let me add the style tag. Okay, and let me access the div element, that is hash container, and let me set a width of say 50% and margin to be say 10px auto. You can adjust the values as you want. Let me save this. Let me refresh. See, it has moved to the right hand side. Then let me also style this button, that is the show hide button, a bit by adding border radius so that it will have rounded corners. Instead of this, it will have rounded corners. I'm just adding that styling. So let me access the button using its ID, show password, and let me just specify border radius to be say 5px to have some slight rounded corners. Let me refresh. See, it is having a thick border and also rounded corner. Now we are going to implement the code, that is when the person enters some value and clicks the show button, the value should be displayed instead of dots. Now if I enter something, it will be just dots. So if the person clicks on the show button, this value should be displayed. So let us add the script section after the style, script section, and let me add the document.ready event, that is $document.ready, and within this function, open and close parenthesis, open and close curly braces. Now we need to implement the logic on the click of the button, right? So let me access it, $show password, that is the button, dot click, again function, open and close parenthesis, open and close curly braces. And what we need to check, if the value of the type attribute, that is here the type attribute's value is password, right? So if it is password, that means it is already in the hidden format. In that case, we will change the type value to be text and also change the value of this button, that is the text of this button, to hide. In the else condition, we will change the type value to password and change this value to show. So here, if $password dot attr of type equals password, which means that the value is hidden, in that case what we will do, we will set the value of type to be, let me copy this, let me paste this, and in that case we will set its value to text. Then the password will be shown, and also we should change this text, that is the text of this button, to hide. So $this.val to be hide. I'm not, here we have added it as small s, I think, for show. Okay, let me change this s to capital. I think that will look better because for login we have specified L in capital letters. So here I can change this to H. And in the else part, what we need to do, let me copy this, paste it over here, and change this to password and this to show. Hope you understand the logic. Here we are checking if the type of the password text box is password, then we are specifying the type to be text and the button's text value to be hide. And in the else part, we are doing the opposite, that is changing back the attribute value type to be password and the text value, that is the button's text value, to show. Here we are accessing the password element a number of times, right? So we can have it inside a variable instead of accessing it using ID multiple times. So password ELE equal to $password. This is just to make the code simple, okay? Let me copy this. So instead of $password, I can specify password ELE. Here also password ELE. Here also password ELE. Now let me save this and check whether it is working or not. Let me refresh. Let me just enter some value in this. Okay. Let me click show button. See, I am seeing GG. Let me again click hide. It is hidden. Now suppose I enter something else. HUIK, show, HUIK, hide, HUIK is hidden. So like this we can toggle the password visibility using jQuery or even JavaScript. What we have done here, we are checking whether the type of the password input element is password, which means that it is in the hidden format. That is, instead of displaying the value, it is just showing some dots. So in that case, we are changing the type to text. From password, we are changing it to text so that it will be displayed. And also the text of the button should be changed to match the logic. So we have changed the button to hide because now it is in the actual format instead of hidden format. And in the else part, which means that the type is now text and the button text is hide now. So in the else part, what we are doing, we are changing the type back to password and also changing the text of the button to show. So now we can very simply implement the toggle password visibility functionality or the show or hide password functionality.